Good morning, everyone. Today we are diving into SOC 2 Type 1 compliance, an essential audit framework that demonstrates our organization commitment to security and operational excellence. Whether you are preparing for your first draft or supporting colleagues through the process, understanding Type 1 is crucial for success. What is SOC 2 Type 1? Let's start with fundamentals. SOC 2 Type 1 is what we call a point-in-time audit. Think of it as a security snapshot. We are evaluating how well your controls are designed at a specific moment in time, not how they perform over months. The key distinction: Type 1 asks, are your controls properly designed? It doesn't test whether they work effectively over time. That's what Type 2 does. We focus on whether the right control exists and are implemented correctly. There is no operational testing required, which is why Type 1 is faster and less resource intensive. The framework is built around trust service criteria, which I will explain in a moment. But essentially, auditors are verifying that your security, availability, and data handling controls meet industry standards. The next one is what is type 1 versus type 2. Let's clarify a difference between type 1 and type 2 because this is critical to understanding your compliance roadmap. Type 1 is a snapshot. We audit your control at a specific date. Imagine taking a photograph of your security posture. It takes 2 to 6 months total, costs less and require less resource investment. You are providing control design. Yes, we have these controls in place. But type 2 is a movie. We observe your control over 3 to 12 months, watching how they perform in real world scenarios. It takes 6 to 12 months, costs more, but provides stronger assurance to customers and partners. You are proving both design and operational effectiveness. Yes, we have these controls and they actually work consistently. Think of type 1 is your starting point. Many organizations complete type 1 first to demonstrate initial commitment, then build towards type 2 for deeper assurance. The next slide is 5 trust service criteria. The trust service criteria are the backbone of SOC 2. They are framework categories that organize security and operational requirements. Let me break down all 5. First one is security. It is mandatory for every SOC 2 audit. It covers controls protecting data from unauthorized access. Think firewall, authentication, encryption. This is non-negotiable. The next one is availability, which ensure systems are accessible to authorized user when needed. Uptime requirements, disaster recovery, redundancy, these fall here. Customers need your service running. So that is what is availability. The next one is processing integrity, which means data is processed accurately, completely and on time. No corrupted transaction, no missed data, no delays. This protects your data quality. That is called processing integrity. The next one is confidentiality. This focus on keeping sensitive data private. This includes customer secrets, proprietary information, competitive data, and only authorized people can able to access it. That is what confidentiality is all about. The next one is privacy. It is about the personal information, how you collect the data, store and manage customer personal data. It's increasingly important with regulations like the GDPR Act. For type 1, you will typically address security as mandatory and select 1 to 3 others based on your business. We will cover this more in planning. So moving on to the next slide is the common security controls. Let's look at practical security controls you will encounter in every audit. These are the tangible security measures across auditors verify. The first one is multi-factor authentication, means users prove their identity two ways, password plus a second factor like an authenticator app. This prevents account takeover even if the password is leaked. The next one is role-based access control, which restricts access based on job responsibilities. Your marketing team doesn't have access to payroll system. Your finance team doesn't access product code. It's about least privileges. The next one is data encryption, which protects information both at rest and in transit. Even if someone gains unauthorized access, encrypted data is unusable without the key. The next one is security training and awareness. Is your human firewall. Regular training ensures employees understand threats, recognize phishing, and follow security policies. Many breaches happen through human error. Training reduces this risk. These are not optional. They are foundational to any serious security program. Moving on to the next one is additional controls. Beyond the core security controls, we address specific requirements for confidentiality and processing integrity. Confidentiality controls include data encryption, access logging, who have access, when and what, and network firewalls that prevent unauthorized entry. So you are creating a layer of protection. The next one is processing integrity controls, which covers endpoint security, protecting your user devices, safeguarding the server, that is protecting infrastructure, and validation procedures, which ensures the data accuracy. So you are protecting both the system and the data that they handle. Together, these ensure your sensitive information stays protected and your business processes maintain the integrity. So moving on to the next one is key documentation required. Auditors cannot access controls without documentation. This is where the preparation becomes crucial. Here's what you need: security policies and procedure, risk assessment documentation, access control matrices, incident response, and monitoring logs. Let's see one by one. The security policy and procedure describe your security rules, who can access what, how password changes work, incident reporting steps. These are your written commitments. The next one is risk assessment and management documentation, which shows you have the identified threats and vulnerabilities, what could go wrong, have you documented it, have you decided which risk you will mitigate, avoid, or accept. So these are all speaks about the risk management. The next one is access control matrices, which list who has access to which system and data. They are often spreadsheets showing every user and their permission. They prove you have least privileges control. Incident response and monitoring logs, which demonstrates you are actively watching for threats, security events, failed login attempts, configuration changes. These logs show the vigilance to our system. Start gathering these well before the audit. Don't wait until auditors arrive. Then moving on to next one is collection collection of evidences. Documentation is important, but auditors also need concrete evidence that controls actually exist and operate. Access badge and visitor log, backup schedules and restoration tests, training and awareness records, system configuration and security patches. So let's see one by one. The access badge and visitor logs prove you control physical security, who entered the building, when, and are the visitors escorted. These logs demonstrate the access control which is having in our system. Next one is backup schedules and restoration tests. This shows you have recovered from disasters. Can you prove you have actually tested backups to confirm they restore successfully? This is evidence of availability controls. The next one is training and awareness records, which documents that employees have received security training, completion date, sign off, content summaries. These proves your training program exists and people participate. The next one is system configuration and security patches, proves your infrastructure is hardened. Configuration baseline shows how system should be set up. Patch log shows you are staying current on security updates. So collect these evidences systematically throughout the year, not just before the audit. So keep the records organized. Moving on to the next one is type 1 audit timeline. Let's walk through a typical type 1 audit timeline. Understanding the phases helps you prepare appropriately. The first one is planning phase, which takes 2 to 4 weeks. You are defining scope, which system, which criteria, which control. So you are meeting the auditor, discussing objectives, answering questions about your environment. So this shapes the entire audit. The next one is preparation phase, which takes 2 to 4 weeks. Your team gathers evidence, organizes documentation, responds to auditor question. This is intensive work. You are pulling together everything the auditor will review. The next one is formal audit, which takes 2 to 4 weeks. Auditor conducts detailed reviews, interview staff, test controls, ask follow-up questions. They verify your claims in the documentation match the reality. The next one is report issuance. This takes 1 to 2 weeks. Auditors compile findings, draft the report, and deliver the final SOC 2 Type 1 report. So the total timeline typically 2 to 6 months. The faster option is not instantaneous. It requires coordinated effort, but it's achievable. So moving on to the next slide is report contents. Understanding what's in your final SOC 2 Type 1 report helps you understand what auditors are evaluating. The auditor opinions is the headline, their professional assessment of whether your controls are suitably designed to meet trust service criteria. This is the credibility customer wants. Management's assessment is your official statement that you are responsible for control design and implementation. This is your accountability. The next one is system description explains what you are auditing, your application, infrastructure, people, data. It defines the boundaries. Here's what we evaluated, here's what we did not. That comes under system description. The next one is evidence of control implementation. It is a substance, detailed description of each control, how it operates, and documentations supporting its existence. This is where all your evidence work pay off. The final report is typically 20 to 40 pages. Customer read it to gain confidence in your security. So moving on to the next slide is defining audit scope. The scope definition is one of the most critical planning decision. Poorly defined scope can create problems later. System and processes to audit. Which applications, which infrastructure, which business processes you might audit your cloud service platform, but exactly legacy systems. You might include customer data processing but exclude internal HR systems. The next one is relevant trust service criteria. Which of the five criteria apply to your business? A cloud storage provider might focus on security, availability, and confidentiality. A payment processor might emphasize processing integrity. So these are how you need to select the trust criteria. The next one is specific controls being evaluated. Not every possible control, the specific ones relevant to your scope. This is refined with your auditor based on your business model. The next one is boundaries and exclusion. What's not being audited? Third party systems, legacy infrastructure. Being clear prevents misunderstanding. Work closely with your auditors during planning to define scope properly. A clear scope makes the entire audit smoother. So moving on to the next one is common pitfalls. Learning from common mistakes help you avoid them. Here are the pitfalls we see most often. Inadequate documentation happens when control exists in practice but are not written down. Everyone knows we require password change every 90 days, but there is no documentation policy. Auditors can't verify what's not documented. So we need to make sure that every controls we are following have to be documented. Unclear scope, which leads to scope creep or misalignment. You think you are auditing 3 systems. The auditor expected 4. This creates friction and rework late in the process. So moving on to the next one is insufficient evidence gathering, which leaves you scrambling during the audit. You realize you don't have access logs, backup test results, or training records readily available. So plan, hire, and gather systematically. The next one is misunderstanding TSC requirements. Means you design controls that don't actually map to what auditors are evaluating. Deep understandings of criteria prevents this. The solution is to start preparation early, document thoroughly, understand requirements, work collaboratively with your auditors. Moving on to the next one is benefits of type 1. Why pursue SOC 2 type 1? Here are concrete benefits. Faster certification compared to type 2, typically 2 to 6 months instead of 6 to 12 months. You get to market faster with credibility. Next one is lower cost and fewer resources required. You are not testing controls over month. You are verifying design at point in time. Cost drop significantly. Ideal starting point for organization new to SOC 2. You gain audit experience, strengthen your controls, then graduate to type 2 later. The next one is demonstrate commitments. Demonstrates commitment to customer and partners. A type 1 report shows you take security seriously even if type 2 is not yet available. Type 1 is a strategic stepping stone, not a permanent destination. Moving on to the next one is path to type 2. Most organizations don't stop at type 1. Here's how you progress to type 2. So after the type 1 certification, the auditor will identify improvement areas. Don't ignore these, implement them. They address gaps or strengthen controls. Establish a 3 to 6 months observation period. You continue operating, maintaining controls, monitoring performance. You are building a track record. Type 2 requires evidence that controls work consistently. Demonstrate control effectiveness over time. Document successful control operations. Resolve exception. Show lesson learned. So you are proving reliability. Strengthen uh, strengthen monitoring and testing procedure. Formalize how you test controls. Document results. Track metrics. This gives auditors confidence in your assurance practice. Many organizations start type 1 audits in early year and begin type 2 audits later that year. It's a natural progression. So moving on to the next one is key takeaways. As we wrap up here, there are essential points to remember. Type 1 is a point in time snapshot of your control design at a specific moment, not a continuous assessment, not a performance test, a design evaluation. Security is mandatory. Other trust service criteria are optional. You must address security. The other four, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, privacy, are selected based on relevance to your business. The next one is proper documentation and evidence are essential. Auditors verify claims in writing. Lack of documentation fails audits faster than anything else. Type 1 is stepping stone to type 2. Use type 1 to demonstrate initial commitments, strengthen your controls, and build organizational capability for the deeper type 2 assessment. SOC 2 compliance is not a one time event, it is an ongoing security practice. So, with this, I am completing the session on SOC 2 type 1 training. In case if you have any questions, kindly comment below.